Today we are going to look at word problem on percentage. We are going to find the value of a percentage part of a whole using model method and branching. Please have your visible thinking book ready. Please look at your visible thinking book 5B and turn to page 49. When you are ready, we will begin. For this word problem, I'm going to show you 3 methods. Method 1 is already shown in your visible thinking book. So you do not have to copy down method 1. But for the other 2 methods, please ensure that you have space in your visible thinking to write down the other 2 methods. Let's look at problem 1. Richard had 150 stamps. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. How many stamps did Richard have left? So here we know that Richard had 150 stamps. And we know that 150 is the whole. So we can draw the whole and we put 150. And we also know that 150 is 100%. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. So we know that he gave 40% to the sister and he would have left 60%. So how do we solve this? We have 100%, which is 150 stamps. 10%, to get 10%, we simply divide by 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So 150 divided by 10, I would get 15. And I want to find percentage left, which is 60%. From 10% to 60%, I have to multiply by 6. Therefore, 15 multiplied by 6, I will get 90 stamps. Method 2. For this method, please draw the model in the space provided in your book. Richard had 150 stamps. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. How many stamps did Richard have left? Here we know 150 Richard had, which is the whole. So we will do the same. We draw a whole. We put 150, which is my 100%. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. Now, for this 40%, what we need to do, we change this to fraction. 40% is 40 out of 100. It will be equal to, if you divide by 10, I will get 4. 100 divided by 10, I will get 10. This is still not the simplest form. What is the simplest form? Right, you divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 40% is 2/5. So we know that the total, the whole is 5 units. So we know the whole is 5 units. So this whole, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. 2 units he gave to his sister. So the sister has 2 units. And he would have left 3 units. So for this method, we will write 5 units is 150 stamps. For 1 unit would be 150 divided by 5, which is equals to 30 stamps. I want to find how many stamps did Richard had left, which is 1, 2, 3. 3 units would be 30 times 3, which is 90 stamps, which is the same as my first answer. Now let's look at method 3. Richard had 150 stamps. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. How many stamps did Richard have left? Again, we know that 150 is the whole. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. And we know that 40 in simplest form is 2/5. Therefore, the next one that we are going to do is branching method. So we know 150 is my 100%, which is my whole. He gave to his sister 2/5 and he would have left 3/5. How many stamps did Richard have left? So we know this is 5 units, this is 2/5, so this would be 3/5. I want to find how many had left. So I know that 5 units or 5/5 is 150. 1 unit, 150 stamps. 1 unit will be 150 divided by 5, which is 30 stamps. I want to find how many stamps he had left, which is 3 units. Problem 2. Richard had some stamps. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister and was left with 150 stamps. How many stamps did Richard had at first? Here we see that Richard had some stamps, and we know that this sum stamp is your whole. But we do not know how many stamps he had. He had some, so we put a question mark. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. So I'm so sorry, this is the sister. The sister had 40%. He was left with 150. So my 60% is my 150. How many stamps did Richard had at first? So I can put down 60% is my 150 stamps. 20%. How did I get 20%? Divide by 3. So 150 divided by 3, I will get 50 stamps. And I want to find 100%. 20 times 5 is 100%. Therefore 50 times 5, I will get 250 stamps. Method 2. Please write this method down and draw the model appropriately. Richard had some stamps. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister and was left with 150 stamps. How many stamps did Richard had at first? Richard had some stamps. He gave 40% of his stamps to his sister. So we know he had some stamps the same way. 40%. Now, what do? Yes, we change the 40% to a fraction. Simplest form? Right, is 2/5. So, how many units do I have? I have 5 units. And 2 units will give to the sister. And he was left with 3 units. 1, 2, 3. He was left with 150 stamps. So here I know that my 3 unit is 150 stamps. 1 unit will be 150 divided by 3, which is my 50 stamps. So I want to find how many stamps did Richard had at first, which is my 5 units. Therefore I take 50 times 5 and I will get 250 stamps. Method 3. Yes, we have some stamps here. That is the whole. He gave 40% to his sister. He was left with 150. So now we change my 40% to a fraction, which is 2/5. So now he had some stamps which we don't know, and we know that this is your 100%, which is your whole. Sister, 2/5. Left, 3/5. He was left with 150. So my 3 unit is your 150. So 3 unit, 150 stamps. 1 unit will be 150 divided by 3, which is my 50 stamps. I want to find how many stamps did Richard had at first, which is my 5 unit. So Richard had 250 stamps at first. Problem 3. Richard had some stamps. He gave 150 stamps to his sister. If his sister received 40% of his stamps, how many stamps did Richard have left? We know that some stamps is your whole, which is your 100%. He gave 150 stamps to his sister. So sister has 150 stamps. If his sister received 40%, so we know sister received 40%. So my left would be 60%. So I want to find how many stamps have Richard left. So 40%, here we know that 40% is your 150 stamps. 20% would be divided by 2. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So 150 divided by 2 will be 75 stamps. And I want to find 60%. I multiply by 3. So 75 multiplied by 3, I would get 225 stamps. So Richard had 225 stamps left. Method 2. Richard had some stamps. He gave 150 stamps to his sister. If his sister received 40% of his stamps, so again, here, the 40% we change to fraction, which is 2/5. So my 40% is my 2/5. So I know that the whole is 5 units. 2 unit belongs to the sister, and we know that he gave 150 to the sister. How many have Richard left? So we know that he would have 1, 2, 3 units. So now I know that 2 unit is your 150. 1 unit would be 150 stamps divided by 2, which is 75 stamps. Therefore, I want to find 1, 2, 3. 3 unit will be 75 times 5, which is 225 stamps. Method 3. Richard had some stamps. He gave 150 stamps to the sister. If his sister received 40% of his stamps, how many stamps did Richard have left? So 150 to the sister. The sister received 40% of his stamps. Here, we know that we don't know the whole. 100%, we are not sure of the whole, but we know that he gave to the sister 40%, which is 2/5. And he's left, and this 2/5 is your 150 stamps to the sister. He's left with 3/5. So therefore, from here we know that 2 unit is your 150 stamps. 1 unit, 75 stamps. And we want to find left, which is 3 unit, 225 stamps. We have come to the end of the video. Today we have learned to find the value of a percentage part of a whole using model method as well as branching. Goodbye.